The plane had just touched down in New York City, and Emma couldn't contain her excitement. Her first solo trip abroad, and the bright lights of Times Square promised a world of possibilities. She had planned every detail meticulously. Her itinerary, the hotels, even the streets she would walk at night. But that first evening, as she stepped out of her hotel onto the crowded streets, something felt off. A strange chill ran down her spine. She noticed a figure at the end of the street, partially hidden under a flickering lamppost, just watching her. Shaking it off, she told herself it was just jet lag playing tricks on her mind. A few hours later, her friends back home received a message that made their blood run cold. "I am here, but you'll never see me again." By the time the police were notified, Emma had vanished without a trace. Her hotel room was untouched, except for a strange symbol etched faintly into the wood of her door circle with a line through it, almost invisible unless you looked for it. Security footage showed her walking out into the streets, but she never came back. Witnesses claimed to see nothing unusual, yet some reported shadows moving in impossible ways, darting from alley to alley. The city, normally buzzing with life, suddenly felt oppressive and cold, as if the buildings themselves were holding dark secrets. Whispers started spreading among tourists. Warnings of the phantom streets, a place where people disappeared without reason. Detective Harper, assigned to the case, felt the weight of it all immediately. She'd investigated missing persons before, but this was different. This wasn't random. It felt calculated, precise. It suggested someone was studying their victims long before they vanished. When Harper examined the hotel room more closely, she realized the symbol wasn't just a random mark. It was a signature, a calling card left deliberately by someone who wanted the city to notice and to fear. Every instinct told her this was only the beginning. The vanishing tourist wasn't just about one person gone. It was the start of something far more sinister, and the city had no idea just how deep this nightmare would go. Detective Harper was obsessed. She traced every step of Emma's last known day, every subway ride, every street corner, every coffee shop. Each location was a piece of a puzzle, but none of them fit together. The witness statements were a mess. Surveillance footage showed a normal day, and everyone was a suspect, which meant no one was. Harper felt like she was chasing a ghost. Desperate for a break, she dove into the city's cold case files, searching for similar disappearances. She needed a pattern, a signature, anything to give her a lead, and then she found it. The symbols, the strange circle with a line through it, found near where Emma was last seen, wasn't the first of its kind. These subtle markings had appeared in other cases, dismissed as simple graffiti, but Harper knew this was no coincidence. Each symbol was a prelude to a disappearance. These cryptic marks weren't random. They were deliberate. They screamed foresight, control, and a terrifying obsession. Harper hit the streets again, talking to anyone who might have seen something. A barista remembered a man slipping a note under Emma's hotel door. A street musician swore he saw shadows following her, shadows that vanished when he looked too closely. A cold fear started to creep in. This wasn't just about one missing person. The vanishing tourist was part of a much larger, more sinister plan. This wasn't just kidnapping. It was psychological warfare. The city and its people were pawns in a twisted game. Back in her office, surrounded by maps and case files, Harper cross-referenced addresses, symbols, and witness accounts. Late into the night, a spiral pattern began to emerge on her map. The locations weren't random at all. They formed a web, leading to historic, isolated landmarks. The killer was methodical, a puppeteer pulling invisible strings. Harper realized with a jolt that the operation was still active. The next disappearance was already being planned. The city's glittering lights, once a symbol of life and safety, now seemed to hide dark, terrifying secrets. The pressure was crushing her. She wasn't just hunting a criminal anymore. She was hunting a phantom who was bending reality itself. She knew every clue she found was a breadcrumb, a deliberate lure to draw her deeper into the very trap the vanishing tourist had set. The deeper Harper dug into the case, the more personal it became. Emma's family reached out, their grief so heavy it felt like it could shatter the phone line, shaking Harper with every desperate word. She saw their faces in her mind, the raw pain, the agonizing uncertainty. It was all too familiar. Just months ago, she'd lost a young girl in a similar disappearance, a failure that still haunted her waking hours and her dreams. The patterns she'd dismissed back then were now screaming at her, red flags she could no longer ignore. Her nights became a blur of caffeine and obsession. She was glued to her desk, piecing together a puzzle with missing edges, poring over grainy camera footage frame by frame. She re-examined cryptic symbols left at the scenes, retraced footsteps that led to dead ends but felt loaded with meaning. The city itself began to feel like an accomplice. Every shadow that danced in a doorway, every flicker of a street lamp, every stranger in a passing crowd became a potential suspect in her mind. The city's streets seemed to whisper secrets, and Harper strained to hear them, to understand their language. She started to see the bigger picture. The vanishing tourist wasn't just abducting people. This was psychological warfare. It was a calculated assault designed to manipulate fear and warp perception across the entire city. People started reporting strange sightings, fleeting figures in their peripheral vision, impossible shadows that stretched and twisted, reflections in shop windows that didn't match their source. The paranoia was spreading like a virus, and Harper wasn't immune. She felt a constant, chilling presence, as if the killer was right behind her, studying her every move, anticipating her next step. The victims were always with her, too. She replayed their final moments, imagining the sheer terror that must have consumed them before they simply vanished. Her professional duty was now tangled with a deeply personal stake. The safety of the city and the crushing grief of the families rested on her shoulders. Sleep was a luxury she couldn't afford. Meals were forgotten, and her world shrank to the precinct files and sprawling street maps covering her walls. Then, the killer's signature, that terrifying symbol, began appearing near places It was a message, a chilling promise that she was next on the list. Each clue, each new disappearance, each whisper of a shadow was like a blade, cutting deeper into her resolve. But through the fear, a fierce determination burned hotter than ever. Harper would not let the vanishing tourist win. She would not fail another family, another innocent life. She would unearth the truth, no matter what it cost her. Days turned into nights, and for Harper, the city itself morphed into a labyrinth of fear. Each corner seemed darker, each alley longer, every streetlight casting unnatural shadows that danced just at the edge of her vision. Then, finally, the first real lead emerged. A street vendor remembered seeing Emma speaking with a man in a long coat, his face partially hidden, just hours before she disappeared. But what caught Harper's attention wasn't he, the shadowy figure. It was what Ed left behind, a folded paper with another symbol, this one more intricate, etched like a complex maze. Harper's pulse quickened. This wasn't just a clue, it was an escalation. The killer's signature had evolved, becoming more brazen. Determined, she retraced Emma's final steps, walking the same cold streets at the same late hours, trying to feel the invisible presence the killer had left behind. Every sound, the distant click of heels, the low hum of traffic felt like a signal, a heartbeat she had to follow. And then it happened. A shadow moved along the side of a building, vanishing the moment Harper turned. But a subtle shift in the air told her it hadn't gone far. Panic and curiosity battled within her. Who was this person? Could it be Emma's captor? Or worse, someone else, entirely another player in this twisted game. The killer had perfected disappearing in plain sight, leaving traces only the most meticulous observer could ever hope to detect. Harper's instincts screamed that the next disappearance was imminent, perhaps even tonight. She rushed back to the precinct, laying out every clue, every fragment of information like pieces of a horrifying puzzle. That is, when a chilling possibility took hold, the next victim might be someone she knew personally. Suddenly, every colleague, every friend, every passerby carried the potential threat of the vanishing tourist's design. The thought was suffocating, yet it sharpened her focus. She knew she had to anticipate the pattern, to think like someone who saw the city not as a home, but as a canvas for fear. Just as the night settled into a deep, unsettling silence, her phone buzzed. A single image lit up the screen. Emma, alive, in a shadowed room. Behind her, carved into the wall, was another symbol. No location, no message, only a challenge. The vanishing tourist wasn't just taking victims. He was testing Harper, measuring her resolve. A shiver of both dread and determination ran down her spine. This chase was no longer just about solving a case. It had become a dangerous, intimate game of perception, strategy, and survival, with the city's heartbeat as the clock ticking toward the next vanishing act. The next night, I followed a trail of subtle signs. Symbols were etched lightly on lampposts. A folded paper was tucked under a park bench, and faint footprints led me straight into an abandoned subway tunnel. Each clue felt like a breadcrumb, but the deeper I went, the more treacherous the path became. My flashlight illuminated graffiti-like symbols, spirals and lines that twisted my understanding of reality. Shadows danced at the edges of my vision, teasing me, vanishing. Always one step ahead. Then I heard it, a whisper carried on the cold air. "You're getting close. But are you ready?" My pulse raced. Adrenaline surged, but I pressed on. I realized the vanishing tourist wasn't just physically elusive. He was manipulating my perception, controlling the flow of information to keep me off balance. Each turn, each corridor, each echoing footstep became a psychological test. And then, in a quiet chamber beneath the city streets, I found evidence I never expected. Emma, alive but restrained, with a single black feather placed deliberately beside her. The realization hit me like a punch. The killer had anticipated my every move, but as I stepped closer, another figure emerged from the darkness. Someone I recognized. Someone I trusted. Doubt, fear, and betrayal collided in my mind. Could a colleague be involved? Was the vanishing tourist working alone? Or had he embedded an accomplice within my own circle? The city above continued unaware, its lights glowing warmly, oblivious to the horrors unfolding beneath. My training, instincts, and fear all collided in a tense standoff. The figure moved in silence, shadows shifting impossibly fast, as if dissolving and reassembling in multiple places at once. I fired a warning shot, but the figure vanished, leaving only a chilling message scrawled on the wall. "You can follow, but you cannot stop me." My hands shook, my heart pounded. I realized that catching the vanishing tourist would require not just bravery, but understanding a mind as calculated, methodical, and twisted as my own pursuit. Every strategy, every pattern I thought I recognized, had been anticipated. The killer wasn't just hunting the city, he was hunting me. And I understood, with grim certainty, that the next move would test not only my skill, but my very will to survive. The city slept, but it was a restless sleep, completely unaware of the game playing out right beneath its glittering surface. I stumbled back into my apartment, my body screaming for rest, but my mind refused to quiet down. Streetlights cast long, dancing shadows across my room, and my eyes locked onto it, a single black feather sitting on my desk. It felt like an accusation, silent and heavy. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was a text, but not with words. Just a symbol. That's when it hit me. A wave of dread so cold it stole my breath. The vanishing tourist. He wasn't just out there somewhere. He had been inside my life this whole time, unseen but always present. The city itself felt like an accomplice, its streets and alleys twisting into a maze built for fear. I paced my small apartment, my mind racing, trying to retrace every step, every conversation, every moment I might have missed a sign. The thought that another person could disappear, maybe even tonight, was a physical ache in my chest. And then I heard it, a soft knock at my door. Slow, deliberate. My blood ran cold. Every nerve in my body screamed danger. My hand instinctively went to my weapon, my heart pounding against my ribs like a drum. I crept towards the door. The knock came again, louder this time, echoing in the silence. I scanned the room, every dark corner, but I was alone. Then, a whisper, so close it felt like it was right beside my ear. I spoon around finding nothing. Suddenly, my laptop screen flared to life, showing a live feed of the street outside my building. Among the crowds, a shadow moved. It stopped, turned, seeming to look right up at my window. It was surveying, deciding. I couldn't breathe. In that horrifying moment, I understood. The vanishing tourist wasn't bound by walls or logic. He was a phantom, a puppeteer pulling the strings of terror from a place I couldn't reach. He had brought the game from the city streets directly into my home, into my mind. I collapsed into my chair, the weight of it all crashing down on me.